respect to the tenants. Very seldom we have any issues. Is that it? Yes. Yeah. I'm a people person. I enjoy people, to be honest with you.
Any other comments, any questions? You understand that this is, and many of our boards and commissions are the same way. They have specific meeting nights.
Sure.
Most times once a month, but in some cases, they may meet more frequently. The long meetings are short.
I'm not sure if you realize how much time I spent in the board of session.
Oh, yeah.
For months on end. So that's a given. This is probably half the amount of time. So that's not an issue at all. Like I said, I hate to make
We have, and you may stay if you like. At the end of the entire interview process, we will vote on who. This person is Juan Pino. And tell us a little about yourself and why you want to sit on this commission.
Well, I'm born and raised in Navy County. I'm a Valley boy, and I sort of lived in the decay of 1955 flooding. We always talked about things of our town, things that happened before the flood, the jobs that were there before the flood, and post-industrial decay. I saw a lot of the community that I grew up in, sort of vinyl siding, things like that. And so moving to Navy is one of the best things about the sport districts that protect the neighborhood, history of the community. And currently, previously not.
Good one.
I mean, I worked in the school districts here. I worked in the health community here, and now I work in government. So I still am living in the community. So I'm very invested in town. It's like stay in town, even though I'm working remotely. So I try to stay involved in it.
Any questions? Over here.
Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair Atkins. Good evening, sir. So you're ready, if appointed, to get to work, knowing what the commission does and all that. Ready, willing, able, prepared.
I'm aware of the tough time with the developer. So community members just want to update their home issues that come with
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Oh, because name today.
I don't have a question
That took care of it all.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. David, tell me a little bit about your involvement with diversity and inclusion with the HAP Foundation. Moving towards diversity and inclusion. Sometimes it becomes a buzzword, regardless of our occupation, preoccupation, or lifestyle. It's something that I think is so that people understand the need for it. I'm just curious, when you spent a few years with the HAP Foundation.
Yeah.
And what's your opinion moving forward into that.
So the interesting thing about the application is I come from an area that's pretty targeted by the crisis. And a lot of people that actually I grew up with passed away from this. That's finishing my master's. I was interning at high school, and there was a large community in high school campus. So when I brought my experience to the about yeah. And so I don't have to do the intake process and work together to both socioeconomic but also so the trans patients that we had. Hold on, my so just sort of the main thing was focusing on the intake process, normalize whoever they are, to bring them to where they want. And so that was a big thing, is that we had a huge population coming a lot of them in our community weren't seeking treatment the same way. So we tried to evolve that to better sort of seek populations that would otherwise still us.
I raise that because some folks might wonder, what you just said had to do with history, et cetera, et cetera. But even as we make history, preserve history, our identities will put impact how we perceive the world moving forward. So that was, I'm pleased to give the response.
I have one. Give me an idea of your knowledge of the historical district.
What do I know about them?
Yes.
Well, so when I first moved to town, I lived on State Street, and I was obsessed with New Haven as a child coming in from the valley, and so I did know a lot about the trolley line, the history of everything between sort of State and Willow, and then and moving up into just across the field, sort of divide that happened. Just seeing the landscape grow down, walking my dog, that's really what I noticed the differences in nations of homes, the quality of homes between neighborhoods. I would visit often. I have a bunch of books that sort of detail the history of the neighborhood. Some integrated, so what's not there anymore. And I think that was one of the worst. Moving to City Point during the pandemic, I wanted some space. I wanted to be, I was living for Christian months before that, which was probably not the place to be in the pandemic, but I really fell in love with my home, and I really fell in love with my neighborhood. And that really made me understand what 95 did to separate the community. Because, City Point historically goes far further north, and that's not like part of the South District. So looking at the peninsula, that's really what I started to look into. So work with economic growth, but also try to preserve all the sides. So I'd like to see growth like that, and all of the growth things down. Looking at significant properties that would be beneficial for generations ahead to see. That was probably my biggest part. But to be fully transparent, there was a hotel development right downtown that bulldozed the property that could have been repurposed as a lobby. I don't know if you like, I'm kind of wondering. Home. Art Deco facade with historic church within, and I watched that building get torn down. I really
Remember the big house?
the bank, the bank.
Yep.
And so that type of a building, not just corner on the street, but pockets of all architecture and narratives. That's where I'm most interested in having this diversity. It's very rich diversity architecture. And people that came through that voice.
And one of the trolley tracks in the city. Oh. Any other questions from our committee? Do you want to present?
You are currently on the Development Commission as secretary?
I was, but that appointment ended and
Okay.
off of that to step into this
Okay, so that appointment.
role. I'd like to do what we can, so I.
No.
Okay,
So,
because it's just the way it reads here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If there are no more questions, I'll say the same. You are welcome to stay if you want to stay to the end of the meeting. And wait for a decision, or you can wait to hear from Barbara. She'll let you know. Yeah, Barbara, that's yours. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next on the list is Levinsky Hardy. Evening. Now, please use your name and address of record.
Levinsky Hardy. Levinsky Hardy, 160 Fountain Street, New Haven, Connecticut, 06515, apartment 1E2.
I ask you to tell us a little about yourself and why you have volunteered for the homeless advisory.
Well, I am a resident, long lifetime resident of New Haven. I attended all the schools in New Haven, upper school, high school. Graduated from Hope Cross High School in '72. And afterwards, I entered into Gateway Community College, or South Central at the time. After I finished there, my life experience, social, psychological, and environmental experience living in Haven. After South Central, I went on to the University of Haven, got my BS in criminal justice. And then after a long period of not going to school, at age 58, I decided to go back and get my master's in criminal justice from Sacred Heart University. I'm also grew up in New Haven, and I was involved in the martial arts in New Haven. So as a young man growing up in New Haven, also obtained a black belt in Shotokan karate and Aikido jiu-jitsu. At that time, at age 26, I got recruited with the FBI and had to move to Washington, D.C. I met a master Aikido instructor named Satobi, and me being from New Haven, African American, the teacher, world known being from Japan, I joined the school in DC when I decided to go work with FBI. They recruited me. When I couldn't afford to do, he saw me in Chinatown with him and his wife, Addie Satobi, and they said, my nickname was Deacon. They said, well, Deacon, we don't see you in class anymore. I said, Sensei, I just moved to DC. I can't afford to do. So he said, you no more pay dues, you're on scholarship. So I stayed on just teaching for 10 years until I returned back to Connecticut. I thought that was very honorable of him because me being the first Black American from this world-known Aikido master to receive a scholarship in his school for 10 years on his teaching. So that's part of my experience. Then I moved back to New Haven. So with my degree in criminal justice and my passion for the homeless, I feel that I'd like to not just be a member of the advisory, but I'd like to bring something to the table. I am a man of ideas and visions, and I'd like to find a passionate way to change the path of the homeless. And since I am trained in criminal justice, I see the connection between the criminal justice and the homeless. And at the same time, I've been working in a homeless shelter for the past 3 years. And I work with these individuals all the time. As you can see, every day when they come into the shelter, they have to sign their names and everything, even today. Although our shelter is not fully operational because of COVID pandemic, I had to think of another way to continue to provide a service to our community, since our shelter is no longer providing overnight stay. So I came up with this proposal that I introduced to the director of the board, converting the shelter now into a donation center. Food, clothes, shoes, hygiene, you name it, towels, bed, whatever the community needs. So in my proposal, I said, this is not just for the homeless, but for the community at large. And from my experience and the result that has produced, that the community do come in, and they do come in for clothes, shoes, and everything free. So I work with the homeless every day. And I see that there's a resource that we have not been able to tap into. And that resource is that housing development in DC, all federal sources, agencies, they kind of like, give grant money to different organizations. But the Department of Justice also give out grant money. But who's not getting that grant money? Organizations that deal with the homeless. So my vision is to work with the advisory board where we can begin to tap into the Department of Justice grant money they give out. And all their grant money goes to law enforcement, crime prevention, etc. So I feel that they are a main player as to why so many people are homeless. When they come out of prison, they don't have a place to stay. Eventually, they're going to be homeless. Now, there's the Board of Pardon that's right across the street from where I work. And every day I see them coming in, the Department of Correction, dropping them off at the Board of Pardons, not Board of Pardon, parole on Grand Avenue. And I look at them and I said, they'll be homeless as soon as they get off that truck. And they do. Sometimes they come over, ask for stuff, I give them water, or whatever I can do with them. So my idea, my vision is to tap into the Department of Justice grant money with justification that you are a source of the homeless. Although you are doing the right thing to preserve the law, incarcerate, punish, and rehabilitate, but the rehabilitation is not worth it if they are being homeless. So my idea is to bring to this board an argument that we can make to the federal government, the Department of Justice, that we feel that you should give some of that grant money to the cause of the homeless where we can reduce it. That's my passion, that's my idea. Secondly, the city of New Haven have what we call a second chance program. I feel I do support the second chance program because those who are applying for the second chance program are most likely homeless or on their way of being. So I feel that the city needs to work with state prosecutors, New Haven or wherever, more so like the community policing. Let's establish a community prosecutory relationship. Because I feel that a lot of the young people who goes into the court system has what they call the ALPA plan. And ALPA plan is basically first-time offenders, depending on the seriousness of the crime. They are getting this plan, they are getting this opportunity on the ALPA plan. If they stay out of trouble, don't get back into the criminal justice system, their record will be expunged. Well, how many of us in New Haven, how many of the aldermen in New Haven know that that practice, that opportunity is not being offered? Therefore, they have to come to the city second chance program. The second chance should start right there at the courthouse with the ALPA plan. A lot of those are coming into the court system for the first time. Why are they being offered the ALPA plan? If you stay out of trouble for 2-3 years, well, your probation might be, your records will be expunged. Therefore, there won't be a need for going to the city second chance program. So I'd like to be on the team, on the board, to advocate hard for that possibility, the two possibilities that I just mentioned. And that's my passion, and that's one of the many reasons that I'd like to be a member of this board. To learn from the board how the board operates and to bring ideas and vision to the board.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Sounds like you're very passionate, sir, Mr. Hardy. Now, do you know when the Homeless Advisory Board meets?
Whenever you meet, I'll be there.
Well, I suggest before, just find out their schedule, when they meet, how long their meetings are, and make sure that it's in your schedule. You know, you're gonna make time for it. if appointed, right?
My passion is to make time for it.
All right, okay, sound like you're halfway there. Yeah, you just gotta be approved. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
People might have.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I was going to ask if you had any ideas or suggestions about how we could eliminate or decrease the homeless situation, but you were so kind as to read my mind.
Yeah,
In addition to that,
All right.
if we look at the average age of 20, say the young men, between 20 and 30, 35, they will be those who I have seen in the homeless population, those who are now 50, 60, 70, because I asked them, why have you been homeless so long? They tell me, I asked them also, do you have a record, a criminal record? They say, yeah, they have it, they've been having it for the past 30, 40 years, never got a card. So my idea is that for those who are 60, 65, 70 years old, at least we can argue, or we can present an argument to the Board of Pardons that at least let's give their dignity back. They are 60, 70 years old. They have no other opportunities in life. So let's work out a plan where at least at the very end of their life, 60 or 70 or whatever, let's give them a full pardon, at least give their dignity back to them. If nothing else, they can't commit any more crime, and they probably never commit another one anyway. So my idea is to prevent those who are between 20 and 35 from becoming permanently homeless if they have a record. And those who are 50 and 60 and above, how we can have an argument with the department to do the honorable thing. And they haven't had a party in about 40 years, now they're 60, 70 years old. Let's give their dignity back to them. If nothing else, if they're gonna be homeless, at least let them be homeless with their dignity, that they don't have a record. Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you, sir. You're invited to, oh, you should. Older.
Yes, ma'am.
Pleasure to meet you.
Likewise.
The question that I have is you're very passionate about homeless and it's very important, it's commendable. Do you know anyone on the commission, first of all, that is serving at this time?
At this present time, I don't know for anyone on the commission at this time. I knew of a person who once sat on commission. I believe her name was Miss Elizabeth Robinson.
And
I did ask her about
the reason why I ask this is because, yes, New Haven has many homeless, and the ideas that you have are great. But I can respect what you said, that you indicated that you're ready to work with the team that's there, and you're wanting to bring these ideas and this life experience that you have.
through my trials and tribulations
Thank you.
and my experience as a New resident. I feel that it is said, give back to your community. My ideas and visions about what I just presented to you have long been sitting, waiting for someone to ask me and waiting to introduce them to others to hear.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, I don't know. Just saying thank you.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank
Thank you, Mr. Harvey.
Next person on our list is Unidra Moulay. Yeah, pronounce it right that time.
Oh, perfect. How are you?
Good, good. How are you too?
Name and address for the record.
Unidra Moulay, 107 Harbor. 06515.
Tell us a little about yourself and why you left this community to get out.
I've been living in Houston, so that's when I know. And I work for the Department of Children's Bills, been working there for 20 years. In my day job, have worked with families, homeless, and trying to navigate different systems and help families. Worked with families from single moms with children that are young up until older, families, mental health, I can be intimate program, just all of what they dealt with. Also families because of the pandemic, lost their job. It wasn't until, my empty nester now, the son who was in college, and the thought was, it's time for me to do something. And I'm very active in my work area with Dr. Smith, shop, and a lot of things that are going on within our community. And it was one community meeting that I was at that we were talking about the city putting homeless in a hotel in the area. And during that time, I was concerned because even though there was a place where the families needed to go, the concern was the services. What are we going to be offering? How are we going to help? What was the transitional plan going to be? One thing to get the homeless in place and work with their families. How do we sustain? How do we give them something so that to help resources? Because of that, that really stirred something in me. So I really said, okay, I'm gonna apply for the homeless commission. I didn't know anyone on the homeless commission, but I do know that they do look at the homeless population, or homeless families within the city. If someone has either a concern about a family or someone who's homeless or planning for what they want to do for the homeless, I believe this is a commission that kind of helps and makes a recommendation. So I'm hoping with all my kind of experience in my day job and my background that I could help bring something to the table, lend my voice. I don't have all the answers, but I'm hoping that I could be a part of a team that's already there. This is a passion of mine with families and children, and also familiar with other systems, criminal justice system, BMIS, DSS. That's also part of the collaboration of working with our families. So I'm hoping that I can offer and add something and
Thank you. Questions from colleagues? Alder Kuzma.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Thank you for presenting and learn more about what you've done. I appreciate how you mentioned how the pandemic has affected homelessness, especially here in New Haven. And I believe things like the expiring eviction moratorium have also contributed to that. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts on how the city or the state or both or the region or regions should work together to help address homelessness in our city, because as we know, this is not a city issue. It's bigger than that. There's only as much as we can do. So I'm just curious as what you thought.
I think the first thought is that everyone comes together and works together to work with homeless, because usually with my lens of where I work, it's automatically called as one department. And I think all the agencies should come together and collaborate. I think you're right. It's not just a New Haven surrounding issue, but surrounding towns. I think everyone here should be heard and collectively come together to start planning. It's just not one idea.
idea, so the thought would have everyone's voice at the table. We have families that maybe talk about different towns. They come to Wayne and now they're staying here. If other towns also have different resources, maybe. So collaborating with, okay, I have this, maybe even this might be good for you. And just really collaborating. It's not an isolation. It's all working together. It's a need. Yeah.
Alderman
Thank you, Vice Chair. Ms. Lindley, sounds like you're seeing, from your conversation, you're seeing the homeless population from a different lens, right? And any thoughts on bringing all the players to the table, because I guess homelessness, when I look at it, it's not only a Connecticut problem, it's a regional, national problem.
Correct, yes.
Any thoughts as to bringing all the big agencies together to work on it as a national issue?
Yeah, I don't want to assume, I'm hoping that maybe the commission has contact with other cities nationally, that are dealing with the same concern or issue, or just what can we do for our community? So the thought would be, if they don't, just say, reaching out to other states, nationally reaching out to see, okay, what do you have in your city, in your state? Let's come together and maybe have a national day or call or Zoom, however we're doing now, and then they can really talk. Because what we were saying is not just in Haven, it's everywhere, right? And also, I want to add that it's not just inner city, right? It's not just someone that looks like me. It's across all race, ethnicity, and classes, and gender. Because I think a lot of people have stereotypes of, and assumptions of what a homeless person is, which is not that. And also implicit bias around services and resources. Sometimes some may get those resources and some may not. So I think all of that is included into conversations and talks to make sure that, we're all kind of in this together.
Thank you so much. Sounds.
Alder.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Ms. Malloy, take us back to 1996, 1997, 1998, where you initially got involved with Albertus and Human Services. What was the spark or the impetus? I'm always interested in people's kind of career journey. You saw a commercial, you saw a book.
Well, honestly, before I worked for the state, I worked at IBM. I was in the corporate world. And I think I've always had a passion to help. I've always involved church helping. I see somebody, that's always been in me. And when I was in the corporate world, I said, no, this is not it. and a few friends I knew worked for the state, and that's how I got to it. And I've been there ever since. Sometimes people say, 28 years, you're still there? Yes, I love my job. I'm still passionate. It's hard work, but at the end of the day, and I worked in New Haven, and sometimes I still see families that I worked with, then, they'll say, if it wasn't for you, and that to me is success, that I know I have an assignment and I'm there for a reason. So this is just another part of something that I'm doing now during my day, or something I can do now for my community.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your interest.
Yeah, thank you.
I see that you have a bachelor's degree in human services and you have a master's in urban studies and social services. And additionally to that, you have over 25 years with the Department of Children and Families. And my question is, you've worked with a lot of families in different levels, supervisory and management. And I'm sure you've had to deal with all the case workloads of the many families that are in need. How have you seen the scenario of homelessness throughout your work history with the Department of Children and Families? And do you see yourself in a role in the commission that could be very supportive in addressing some of those things that you have seen?
Yeah. I see there's a lot of themes. I think one is consistent. You know, I've seen worked with families who struggled with substance misuse. I've worked with families who had mental health or cognitive disabilities. Worked with veterans, you know, who just can't make it for their lens of they can't make it. Or just families who have just lost their jobs or lost businesses and just find themselves with no family and lack of resources or mothers, single moms. So I think it's similar through all these years. It's kind of the same. You know, you have young men who maybe have been in women, but I've seen a lot of men who've been incarcerated. So when they come out, it's hard to find a partner. Someone who has criminal background will not give our run, you know, the apartment. So they struggle. There's no resources. Sometimes some systems, you know, you call 211 or some shelters may not be able to have a family because they're eliminated because of some reasons or some systems or just guidelines, policies that are, you know, in place. I have worked with a lot of different backgrounds. You know, homelessness is homelessness, right? So hopefully that, you know, that answers what.
That helps. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Just one quick question. Building off of my colleague, you know, we often talk about sort of the negative stuff that's going on with homelessness. But what do you think are some good things that have been working, you know, in these strategies to tackle, you know, to address homelessness?
Right, you're right. We've been kind of on the negative side, but there are success stories. And I've seen success stories where sometimes the family just maybe, if I can say it this way, just needed help at the moment because of their situation. And they were able to get the resources, find, you know, go into a shelter. Maybe the shelter had transitional housing. They were able to find a job, work with certain employees who were able to work with if you had a criminal, because there are some employees that because you have a criminal background that they still hire. And they find success where they don't need that type of, you know, intervention. They're able to maintain and do that. So there are a lot of success stories. You know, we talk about the negative and kind of what we see, but there are a lot of families who just need this for now to kind of get them to the next step over this hurdle. And that's collaboration. That's everyone coming together to help.
Question for you. Emergent. Give us an idea of that.
It was,
Just briefly.
yeah, it was a book of a group of women who wrote a chapter about a mountain or hurdle in their life and how they overcame. So it's a powerful book about days to get, so that you can get to whatever, if you're facing a giant. You know, there's emerging men too.
They all emerge at some point.
Right.
Good luck.
Yeah.
See you on the summer. Any other questions, my colleagues? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're invited to stay if you like.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next one on our list is Sunita Edwards. Practicing that in my mind, I got it right.
It's Indian.
Yeah. I thought of that. Name and address for the record sheet.
Tanaya Evans, 101 Carmel Street, Virginia, 065.
Can you tell us a little about yourself and why you'd like to be on this committee, the Liverpool City Board?
I was born and raised here in England. I left for 7 years and just recently returned. But growing up, I remember seeing cities being very vibrant. People took care of their property, that they looked out for one another. The resources were a lot richer. And so upon my return, I was asked by a friend that's director if I would consider joining the board just because she knows I'm about accountability and wanting to see ways to be vibrant and successful in the great community. So people that are just visiting over.
What do you know about the LCI board?
So, I can't say too much about the board. Speaking with, Mrs. Samuel, she informed me that she will let me know further what they're actually doing, that they were zoned for previous meetings and things of that nature. So it's hard to kind of, give me as much information, but she did inform me that they do need, I can't remember exactly what they did. I had that comment on it. And I know about what the program involves. And have to do my research. Okay, so I know that they do help with foreclosures, they help with rental assistance, they also help with, safe with regards to lead, and if people have an issue with inspections, code, basically just keep making sure that the structures are safe, the community and the residents are safe in their housing environments and neighborhoods.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I don't believe a specific question for Ms. Edwards, but I just have to say I'm familiar with her commitment and passion and dedication. So it's a pleasure to see her for us.
Questions at this end? But just to say, the LCI board, they have a big job in front of them. It's a lot of concern for people's homes, sometimes even just property.
Right.
The city has property, sliver lots and the like. There's, decisions to be made by that board regarding assignment or sales of property or homes. So sometimes it can be a little difficult and certainly time consuming. So it's important that you have the time. And all the boards and commissions are the same thing, that there's hours involved. You can never put a total number on the hours because one month it could be an hour and the next month could be 3 or 4, depending on what comes on your agenda.
I'm not working, so I'm Zooms, and I think the last one at Zoom was like 5 hours. And I was watching. So what I'm concerned about, I'm there and focused and committed. That's all I say.
If there's no other questions from the committee? then Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay. Wait to get word back from the office. The next person is Thomas Cavalier, or Cavalier. Yep. Yes.
Yes, okay. Good evening.
Good evening. Name and address of record, please, sir.
Thomas Cavalier, 607 Central Avenue, New Haven, Connecticut.
Sorry, I said Cavalier, because I had one of my coworkers spelled the same name and they changed from Cavalier to Cavalieri.
Exactly.
So
Well, Cavalier is the proper way, but
that's what he
it's
said.
become Americanized, so Cavalier is just fine.
Sounds like going to be Americanized. All right, tell us a little about yourself and why you'd like to be part of the Port Authority.
Sure. Well, I grew up in Bethany, so obviously not too far away. I ended up living in Washington, DC for a little while. And in the past few years, during COVID and the sort of craziness of the world, thought, where's the best place to live? Where's the best place to invest oneself and get involved in the community? And it's always back home where family is, where community is. And so about 2 years ago, I moved back to Connecticut. I settled in the Westville neighborhood and really looked at all of the great advantages that New Haven affords to me, both professionally. I work at District New Haven, and personally, just in terms of the vibrancy of its culture and all the opportunities that are available, and thought, this is what I get, what can I do to give back? And I was very fortunate enough to be connected to the New Haven Port Authority through the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce, which held an excellent event that allowed people from the community to become connected with boards and commissions looking for community members. And I just thought it was a fantastic opportunity to be involved in something which often goes unseen, right? The critical importance of ports, maritime trade, shipping, logistics, and trucking to the local economy. And the rest is history. Here I am.
Now, you know that that's a position that's going to be in finance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, so the, as far as the finance and treasury role, previously, academically as a student, economics and was a major component of my degree. I went on then to work at the U.S. Department of Commerce, so involved in import-export data from a sort of research and academic perspective, and then professionally speaking, managing client budgets, digital advertising spend, so just familiar with operating with numbers and managing that. So as far as relevance for.
Any questions from the committee?
Just a comment. Thank you, Vice Chair. Antoine, Mr. Cavalier, sound like you're very prepared and ready to go. And do you know when the commission meets?
The first Thursday of every month.
Okay. Sounds like if you're confirmed, you're ready, right?
Ready to go.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Committee members?
Thank you, Vice Chair Antoine. Mr. Cavalier, tell me a little bit about you worked in terms of international relations, international issues. When people ask me about New Haven, I say, we're an international city. We're engaging by a map, say North America, or say the Connecticut, or those. But we're an international global city. I just wonder whether you feel the same. I know you worked in other countries.
Yeah.
Do you see that same vibrancy in terms of
Absolutely. I mean, it's unusual for a city of our size to be so international. It just doesn't usually happen. But we are the culture capital of Connecticut. I believe that very strongly. We have so much going on. And as a prior point you mentioned, even we've seen so much growth recently. And I think that's all due to that fact that we have a rich culture. We have a strong international influence and an appetite for all of those things, which is obviously the most important part. That's why I love living here and why I do live here.
And our ports are so important.
And our ports are critical.
That's like, yeah,
They're critical to the economy. I mean, I think it's a seriously high number, like 111,000 jobs are dependent on trucking, obviously, which is a huge part of the port logistics, and the role that the port plays in our energy security, and with the upcoming harbor deepening project, how much more that's going to increase is really incredible.
Natural harbor. Any other questions? Someone made a comment earlier about New England being a small city. Just so you remember, amongst all the cities in this country, we rank 204 on the list. So we're not all that small. With this group is called an antinism.
And whatever size we are, we punch above our weight.
Well, thank you, sir, then. And you were invited to stay to the end, or you may go if you have other things to do and start our own conference.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next person on the list, Nicholas Fabiani. For the also. Good evening. Name and address, please.
Nicholas Fabiani, I go to Nick, 400 Blake Street, apartment 3302, New Haven, Connecticut, 06515.
Give us a brief outline of you and why you'd like to be on the authority board.
Sure. So like many of the speakers today, I have a deep love for the city, a long connection. My grandparents grew up here. My parents grew up here. I grew up in Camden and in Cheshire and in Wallingford. I recently returned back to the city in 2021 and I'm looking for an opportunity to give back. I like the person before me said, you know, the city affords us so many opportunities, and looking for ways to give back is a big driver of what I'm passionate about. And so for the Port Authority, specifically, you know, it's a huge driver of economics in Southern Connecticut, but in Southern New England and Western New England in general. So I think figuring out how we can ensure that the port will continue to grow. There are huge opportunities as global forces continue to shift, as the supply chain continues to be figured out post-COVID, and figuring out how we can grow the port, how that can continue to be an economic driver in a way that is sustainable environmentally, that considers and is conscious of its neighbors, of the people who live in the city. That's a big task ahead of us, and I am really passionate about being a part of figuring out those solutions.
Questions from the committee?
Mr. Fabiani, experience and or whatever, what makes you qualified to be on the commission besides your passion?
Yeah, I have a somewhat untraditional background in this position. I think I have a longstanding interest in this area, and I have some work experience that touches on this. At APCO Worldwide, I service clients, the service freight rail clients, and so I have a little bit of experience there. And my background is largely in nonprofits and foundations and in organizations that work directly with communities. So I think there's a little bit of a connection there in terms of how we consider how to grow the port to continue to make sure that it can be an economic driver, but it does so in a way that really is connected to and considerate of the local community here.
Thank you, sir. I think that's what I had, too. Any other questions? No? That's all the questions we have. Thank you, sir. You're invited to stay for if you need to leave.
Thank you very much.
You'll get a call. Thank you. Next person is Erica Holohan, the Peace Commission. Over to-
Chair?
Chief.
After Mr. Fabian is at 10, 15 Kim, is it 15 Kim?
I'm going with,
Oh, sorry.
it's a little glitch.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. Name and address for the.
Erica Holohan, 182 Willard Street, New Haven.
We just, there are two different lists here.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you were looking.
Oh, I was on it and then I was off and now I'm re-upping, I guess. So, yeah, I think it's a great, important commission. I think, it started in the early 80s in response to, disarmament in the Cold War. And, here we are again, dealing with issues of increased militarization around the world. And, the board works really hard to create ways and pathways to consider a more peaceful way of life in New Haven and around the world. And more recently connected to working with young people in terms of anti-violence in New Haven and climate. All difficult issues in terms of peace in the world.
You don't have to worry about getting very close to the mic.
Okay, all right, sorry.
No, it's just, you know, you don't have to force yourself. Just get next to us, work good.
Okay.
I'd just like to recognize Alder Marchand, who's joined us tonight, Ward 25. It's an appointment, but when you were off the commission for a while.
Yeah, because I missed the last
After a
meeting.
certain period of time, it becomes an appointment again. Like a new appointment. That's why therapists come to see us. Questions from the panel? Oh, I know.
Thank you, Vice Chair. You're all prepared and, you know, the Peace Commission, they probably need a little reinvigoration, let's say, you know what I mean? Because some of the members are up in age and you know, might need a little younger infusion. So, are you prepared to be part of the uplift and working with, you know, the elders, learning the commission to make sure, you know, you're bringing a new spin on things if appointed?
Totally, 100%.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank
I would love to hear what you say.
Sir?
About bad about elders.
Yeah, I think they're amazing, and yes, I bring the average age down by, I think, like 25 years.
Yeah, I didn't know disrespect to the chair, vice chair.
Yeah, that is true. We're trying to make it a little light. We're
Yeah,
going
I
along.
know.
Would really like it. Any questions from other community members?
Erica, tell us a little bit about the youth recruitment, because with all respect to the founders, originators of the Peace Commission, I'm so glad you mentioned the anti-war movement, because so many ways we're back in that period once again. And I'm so excited to see this past Friday, the youth climate. So
Yeah.
there's no doubt in my mind that the young people are not, that's a bad expression. Really greatest peace on earth in their generation. Whatever that might mean, and it also seems whatever it might take. So experienced people like yourself can really lead this new brigade of these warriors. I guess what I felt about that, when you sense it about the interest in saving the world. So
Yeah, my attitude is that if they're gonna be the ones to do it, I mean, they should be. We helped create this problem, so we have to support them to find solutions. But they'll be the ones to do it.
and do you sense do you sense their creativity or I also have a sense of it's a despair or actually a frustration, but I see the creative way that they're looking at it.
Yeah, I don't have any despair.
Any other questions? That's all the questions we have. Everybody to stay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for waiting. Next person on the list is Christine Kim for the redevelopment. Good evening.
Good evening.
Name and address, sir.
My name is Christine Kim, and my address is 406 Humphrey Street in New Haven.
Tell us a little about yourself and why you want to be on the redevelopment agency.
So I've been in the first arrived in New Haven in 1995 on the last flight that United had direct from Chicago. And I arrived as a student and didn't think I was going to stay, but the universe had its own plans, and I've been here on and off since. I spent some time in the interim working in Asia on climate change and urban air pollution, and came back, and then tried to leave and came back. And I've had 5 going away parties, and I am still here. And I live happily here with my husband and my 2 young children. So I am very excited. I've always been involved in one way or another with New Haven. And most recently, last year, I founded a new group called AAPI New Haven, which represents Asian American Pacific Islanders, those who identify as such in the New Haven area. It was as a reaction to some of the anti-Asian hate that was happening across the country and the world. And it was asked, who are the leaders? Where are the groups? And we realized there was not really any pan-Asian group. There were, there's a Chinese business here or, an Indian group here, but nothing that really unified and gathered the much growing number of Asian Americans in our city. I believe the last census in 2020 said it had doubled. And there is a question of voice and visibility and participation. As members of this community, we need to also step up if we want to be really part of this community in every way. And so it's not just to represent Asians, but also to represent our city and really tie this community together as it grows, as this very international city and keeps on growing. So that's one of the things, in addition to many other things, I can't help but get involved and care. So yeah, I've been a student of the democracy school. I don't know why, but I follow all the city plan agendas and read newsletters from even the recycling agency. I'm just very interested in how our city works. And I'm home with my children now, but I would like to be more involved in a more substantial way. Last year, I also joined, which is fascinating to me, but the DTC as ward co-chair for Ward 7. And I'm just learning so much and very, in awe of everyone who does, especially the elders who do put in so much of their own time, a lot uncompensated or not compensated enough for the time to really do the work in our community. A lot of times, you may see comments online and people have a lot to say, but they don't really do things. So in order to really represent and show up and really be part of the community as a citizen, as a mother, as a Asian American, as many things, as a resident here, is to step up and do the work. And so that's why I would like to be involved with redevelopment. I think in New Haven, redevelopment is, has had huge effects on the city till now. We have, history and urban planning books written about redevelopment that has gone awry, has destroyed communities. And I think in the redevelopment that may happen in this city, needs to honor and learn from that past. It needs to recognize the current communities that exist, the people that, and listen to the voices that exist here, but also look towards the future and see where we want to be. So I would be honored to be part of that process. I love meetings. People hate meetings, but I do love meetings. I love agendas and meetings. And so, yeah, all of that is just fine with me. And if any way I could serve, I'd be happy to, so.
Other questions from the committee? Hold your hands.
The redevelopment agency, do you know what they actually do here in New Haven and the direction that they're going in?
Yes, my understanding is that the redevelopment agency hasn't convened or been very active in, but that it is a significant agency that is one of the few agencies or commissions in New Haven that has the power of eminent domain, which is quite a major responsibility and something that has to be really carefully thought through. I know it works very closely with City Plan in terms of receiving plans from City Plan, giving it back to them, working with the housing agency, the Board of Alders, and yeah, listening to what the city needs, both in terms of economic development, but also in terms of the human beings and communities that are here.
Working with properties, sometimes blighted, and fixing up or keeping our community in good upkeep.
Exactly.
Some of the things that they do,
Exactly.
most important. All right, thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I appreciate your mention of urban renewal and just redevelopment and the effects it's had on Haven in the past. And so to sort of bounce off of that, what do you sort of envision or see as like equitable development, redevelopment, especially here in the city of New Haven with a variety of different neighborhoods, different characteristics, old housing stock, new housing stock, different populations, different languages, a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, one big city. I don't know if you could speak to that.
Yeah, thank you. I actually have no preconceived judgments on what should happen. I'm not an urban planner. I am a member of this community, and as such, I think the most important thing is to listen and learn to all the constituents, from whoever shows up on the agendas and who don't know how to show up, don't know even can't come to these meetings, but also listen to developers, listen to the experts who this is their career in terms of seeing what good urban planning is or redevelopment is, listening to the needs of all of the people and listening and doing the research and seeing what's right. I don't know, and I don't want to come with preconceived notions because I'm not sure, but I'm definitely willing to listen and learn and represent our community instead of just putting what Christine would like out there, so.
Any other questions? You really brought back some memories when you mentioned urban renewal.
Oh, yeah.
That goes back a long way in this city. But if we have no more questions, then you're invited to remain if you'd like to the end.
Great, it's bath night, so I need to go get my kids bath. So thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Next on the list is Mr. Matthew Nemerson. Redevelopment Agency as well. Not bad.
Is it okay if I take my mask?
Yes. Address for the rest of the
My name is Matthew Emerson. I live at 35 Huntington Street. Good to see you.
Good to see you again. Okay, tell us a little bit that we don't know about Matthew Emerson and why you want to be on the redevelopment council.
Well, this is actually the first time in my adult life that I've not been on a city board or authority, and I miss it. And so I'm delighted that the mayor asked me to think about taking on this challenge, and if approved, I really look forward to it. I will say that as it happens, when I was in college, I actually studied redevelopment agencies as part of an urban planning and urban history program. And then in graduate school, having looked at the Act of 48 and then how it was applied through the 50s, I came back to New Haven for graduate school and studied and actually worked on projects here in New Haven about how sometimes it was misapplied and it didn't always work. And so redevelopment agencies are amongst the most powerful tools that we have as cities, and it actually was one of the most interesting programs put together after the war to actually bring equity, to actually bring development to cities. And as many things that have started out with great intention, it went a little bit awry and actually did some damage, did some serious damage to many cities in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, New Haven among them. And actually worked with the late, great Gerald Clark in graduate school, trying to figure out how to undo some of the damage that was done to the Dixwell neighborhood and the Dixwell Plaza. And so sad to be at his funeral last week. They were in the plaza, but very excited to see what many brilliant people are trying to do to undo some of that redevelopment across the street and have done there on the side with the church, with the Q House. So, for me, I've spent half my life in economic development, redevelopment with a small R here in New Haven, starting as a development head at Science Park, and then moving on to 13 years as head of the chamber, and listening to Christine. And I have to say that I actually take pride still in flying out to Chicago and convincing United to actually start those flights to come to New Haven. It was very sad to see them leave in 1995, but delighted to see planes back. And then, of course, had the great honor of working with Mayor Tony Hart for 5 years as her economic development administrator, where I actually spent 5 years as the staff of the redevelopment agency and working with the late great Brian McGrath and other people. Joe Schiavone still active, although I'm not sure if he's actually technically, I don't think he's technically still on the authority, and of course Linda Townsend there, who I think is the only actually active member of the agency. So I'm really looking forward to this if approved, and seeing if we can take this very powerful tool, which has been lying dormant for over a decade here in New Haven, and your help and the help of city plan and the mayor and the very vibrant neighborhood groups, and also probably in this case of the parking authority, given their role at the train station, probably working together to see if this tool can be used to our advantage. Many cities still have redevelopment agencies. Many cities still actually have great money and assets controlled by redevelopment agencies, and they do have the power to take property and to take grants and to work with developers. And I'd like to be part of that as a volunteer. It'd be a great honor.
Questions from colleagues?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Actually, I'm just going to ask a question so I can just chat with Matt for a little bit. I'll use this protocol.
Congratulations to you.
To that. I mean, to come back to all this. I know speak personally from a psychic standpoint, since you've been on this life journey for a while, I've been on this life journey for a while. Now they kind of see things fresh and not to rely on our past to cloud new opportunities. So for me, the personal battle is that the first was to kind of not rely only on my historical learning, to kind of follow upon my new self, my baby self, my infant self. I think it's funny when you talk the same way, but certainly as you sit there, you sat here, you sat there, sometimes we can be flooded by memories, that sometimes can be inspirational, but also sometimes can be not so motivational. So I'm just curious psychically about why you decided to. I mean, I'm obviously pleased to see you back, to throw your hat back in the ring. But I'm just wondering what from a psychological standpoint, why it's, what the stimulus, the new stimulus effect from you.
Yeah,
If that's a fair question.
no, it's a great question, and I like the sort of terminology you used. I mean, as we suddenly find ourselves not as the youngest person in the room, but often as the oldest person, I feel younger and more energetic and more free to sort of say what I think and to listen to people more carefully. Because, maybe we're not trying to always impress everybody or try to get somewhere or maybe move on to the next thing. It's been a great trip. I'm incredibly proud of the things I've done. I look around and I see things that I started. We had somebody talking about the district. I still think that, the work with the mayor and all of you to sort of make a decision not to make that into sort of a public works building or something else, but into that great building. It just gives me pride every time I drive down James Street. So there are a lot of things, but I think the most important thing is that being out of the arena for a while and sort of seeing other parts of the world, proud of the business I'm in now, which is sort of an environmental business and energy business, and traveling around sort of the country now. It's a national business. As other people have said today, I'm still so delighted to be part of New Haven, to be a citizen of New Haven, to have my kids grown up, go to school here, and now sort of being able to relax as sort of a senior citizen. I do think that you asked the question about how do we think about equity and how do we think about this role that we have. I still think that New Haven, which as we know is one of, when you look at the greater New Haven, it's a microcosm of America, technically. It's the most like America of any metro area, which is sort of strange because it also is one of the most segregated places by individual census tracts. So there's that great irony. But putting that aside, to be part of a community and to be able to contribute to making it be a model for other parts of the country at a time of such distress and sadness, to see America not going always in the direction that I would like it to see it go, but to realize that there are probably only a handful of communities left that have the diversity, that have the spirit, that have the passion that really I think America was founded by, and that have literally the technical diversity of people, of different types of people, that can still be a model for what America has to be. And even if we end up being the only place in the whole country that is what it could be, I want to be part of that, and I'm proud that I'm here and not in some place that is, battling. Well, I don't go into that. But so here's the thing: New Haven. Oftentimes people would ask me, "Aren't you ashamed of the fact that New Haven has the greatest distance between its richest quadrant, 20%, and its poorest 20%? Amongst almost every city." I would say, no, not at all. I mean, this is the great opportunity, because as a community that has many successful communities, we have also taken in, as I think there's a whole battle as a nation, are we taking in people? New Haven, both structurally and legally and emotionally, takes in anybody who wants to come here. Now we have to sort of make that work. We have to make that work from an affordability standpoint, from a land use standpoint, from an opportunity standpoint. But there aren't that many places anywhere in the world today that can say that. We're seeing countries like Italy and Sweden that are saying, almost, with an exclamation point, we don't want to have those people here. In New Haven, it's one of the few places where there are no those people. We're all those people, we're all our people. And so how do we make that work? And how do we make sure that we continue to have economic growth, but not just, and believe me, it's spectacular to see, because certainly going back to Science Park in the mid-'80s, I was hoping that someday we would have multi-billion-dollar biotech companies building shiny buildings in town, and to see it actually happening is exciting. But some of you may remember, Tom, that when I was at Science Park, I also went to the state and I said half of this park, ironically the half now that's occupied by Yale, but half of this park should be light manufacturing. And this park we should not as a state be banning light manufacturing to exit 56 or to exit 41, which was the plan then, to move it to Milford, to move it to Branford. But instead, light manufacturing should be a place where people who both had those jobs or whose grandparents and parents had those jobs can walk to those jobs. That's really what the urban redevelopment should be. Anyway, so I still think New Haven has all those opportunities. And we have to be very careful about the land. We're running, and ironically, our success is actually going to create a land shortage before we run out of opportunity. And we're going to look back and say, oh my goodness, what do we have left? So I think land management, husbandry, whatever the term is, has got to be very, very careful. And at the same time, I said this at a Yale Economic Development Forum 2 weeks ago. And it's sad, but look what's happening in Florida today. Now we know Florida is the fastest growing state in the country. But I think tomorrow morning, when we actually see the pictures and the devastation, we realize this is not an exception. This could become, and God, I hope it's not, but it could be an annual event. A lot of people are going to think about the move that they have made over the last 20 years of all shapes and sorts and creeds and colors moving back south. They're going to say, there's an environmental reason and there's a land safety reason why it might make sense to reconsider places that we have left. So I think we're going to end up a very popular, a very crowded place, and a place that we're going to be making lots of conversations about opportunity and lots of conversations about who is this city for. And while there will always be gleaming buildings with amazing technologies and life-saving drugs being developed, we also have to make sure that we don't become, a desert for all opportunity. And while I love to see, some warehouses going up here and there, we really have to think about what are the jobs, equitable jobs of the future going to be. Because when all is said and done, and a few little corridors of a North Haven here or a West Haven there are going to have to be the ones that are going to manage that future. So I think it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time, even with some of the economic things that are happening in the country. I think that New Haven's time has come, but I think it's going to come even more so in the future. And I think that the tools that a redevelopment agency, or really a redevelopment agency 2.0, can bring to this community, because we're not going to make the mistakes of having bureaucratic, autocratic, technocratic decisions made by behalf of other people, as we saw it in the 50s and early 60s. That's not going to happen. The bigger challenge is not to let the many voices that need to be heard create a stalemate and have nothing happen. And so the great excitement of redevelopment agencies is that they were designed to break the log jams. And so can we have diversity of input and break the log jam and beat out other parts of the country for opportunity? So that's how I see it. So,
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee?
It's answered all of mine.
well, thank you so much.
It's sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next on our list is Doug Housley. Name and address of record, please, sir.
Thank you. Douglas House Clayton, 119 Olive Street, second floor, New Haven, Connecticut.
Please tell us something. And why you want to be
Thank you so much. It's great to see everyone today and good to be here. I really have dedicated the last 15 years of my career to access and transportation specifically, and thinking about how to help increase access and make it more possible for folks to get to work, to get to across the street, sometimes to the park. And also it's, in thinking through my future, I'd like to be retiring in Greater New Haven, specifically in New Haven. And one day I'd like to be a customer of the Greater New Haven Transit District. So I'm really interested in helping in my way of helping serve on the Transit District Board to make it as good of a transit district as it can be. I had the opportunity to serve once before, and I'm looking forward to serving again.
question?
No.
Thank you. Doug, the challenge for me is in some ways not a challenge, but since I've been blessed to know a lot of people, know one another, sometimes I don't want to feel I'm putting people on the spot, but allow me to perhaps put you on the spot. Is there a conflict of interest between your current job and this particular thing?
That's a great question. I don't believe so. However, the transit district is a state creation. It's a regional board of directors. And the parking authority is exclusively a New Haven-based operation that deals exclusively with off-street parking as well as our two train stations. The transit district only does paratransit and what's called on-demand or response-based transit, and they service more along the lines of what the Connecticut Transit route. So paratransit services are provided for a 3/4 mile radius on either side of the routes. So I don't believe there's a conflict of interest. I think earlier it was mentioned you can only serve on one. Presently not on any boards or commissions, and excited to step up, possibly with your blessing, move forward in the process to be back on the transit. I think there could be opportunities for the two to work together. And so that's not happening presently, nor do I anticipate it to happen. But the statute surrounding transit districts includes parking authorities, includes the opportunities for transit districts to lease and build and bond for parking in all of the communities that the transit district does service. So in theory, which is not what I'm proposing, that the transit district would become a parking authority for the region rather than what the parking authority is for just the parking of the city of New Haven, if that makes sense. But I don't see any conflict at the moment, nor if there would be conflict, I would resign and/or the conflict would probably come through any agreement between the two organizations.
Your last statement caused me to ask this question. In a perfect world, a hypothetical question, are you alluding to the fact that there could be some benefit to a merger, if you will?
Well, I think I'm just more speaking of in a perfect world, how to deliver services to the region. So
In a perfect world, would it be a benefit to have quasi-merger?
in a perfect world, there's other ways to manage our efficient transportation systems. And we have a parking authority that represents our city. We have a transit district that represents 17 municipalities or 19 municipalities. We have a COG that represents 15 of those municipalities. In a perfect world, all of these things would sort of overlap with each other. And we wouldn't have duplicative powers, but
we live in our world, and right now the transit district, when I last served on the board, had a 97% on-time performance. And that 97% on-time performance included 30% of the customers using a cell phone app to schedule their rides, take control of their transit experience. And that did not come without a lot of pressure from our board. And as vice chair, it was, incumbent upon it was very important for the board to improve the transit service for our seniors and our folks that have disabilities. And neither actually are in conflict at the moment. They have overlapping statutes and mandates and powers. And so being the executive director of the parking authority helps train me to be a board member of the regional board.
Just, I think, for clarification for our committee members, the New Haven Parking Authority is not a city agency, it's not a city department. It's a standalone department that under state statute, the mayor has authority to appoint its board of directors. That's it.
Right.
So it's just like you would look at, more people are, I think, aware of the housing authority, for instance. It's, the mayor appoints members of that board of directors, but it's not a city agency, it's actually quasi-federal agency. So just so that, the confusion lies, and I think that's where your question kind of comes from. Any other questions from the committee? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we have two other reappointments that don't have to attend, and I don't see Dennis Daniels here, so he's not here. And Kathleen Fay here. They didn't have to attend because they're reappointments and their records are good. Sometimes the reappointments do attend, but this time you're not. Yes. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on any of these appointments? Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on any of these appointments? Last time, anyone from the public would like to speak on any of these appointments? Okay.
Mr. Chair, I ask that we close the presentation of the hearing.
Second. Moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? There are none. The public portion is closed. Floor is open for next motion.
Mr. Chair, I ask that we withdraw item number 1 due to that the appointment did not show up.
Second. Moved in second. Discussion.
She was out of town and unable to be here, so, I think in letting her, we can put her back on when she is available to come, before us. So, giving.
Well, there would be opportunity to.
I think it's still within the time limit she could make the next meeting. So would it be more appropriate to table? Rather than have to go through the whole process again, it's still within the time, the 60-day time limit.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to amend,
Withdraw the motion.
to withdraw the motion and amend that we table the item.
Motion made to table,
Second.
made in second. Any further discussion? All in favor of tabling this item?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Abstention? None. That item will be tabled.
Mr. Chair, I ask that we move items 2 to 12.
Are you seconding? So we'll do a second.
Um,
We can't discuss the way the second.
second,
Second discussion. And all the good may have seen up first.
Yeah, it notes that item number 2 needs, the term expiration date to be amended. So I'd imagine we couldn't,
Right.
you know,
We
put all the motions together, because this one in particular needs to be.
done individually.
Right. And I think there's at least one more that.
Yeah.
Item 2.
And number 8.
Therefore,
Okay, so let's move item 2 alone.
you're rescinding your motion.
Mr. Chair, let's move item 2.
You rescind your motion.
I rescind the motion
Second one.
and let's move item 2.
Second,
All right, moving item number 2, Christopher Mordecai, Civil Service Board. Moving second discussion. Alder,
thank you, Vice Chair. First, I would like to amend the term of expiration, pardon me, from 2/21/24 to 2/1/27 for Mr. Mordecai. Then, as far as I'm concerned, he's been very dedicated, in our community, hard worker, and I'm in favor of approving him, for the Civil Service Board.
technically, we have to make a motion we have to go through the amendment, the change first before we can vote on the item.
Okay, so,
I second the motion, the amendment to amend.
Moving second, discussion. We just made it.
yes, just changing the date, the expiration date.
Okay, so we're gonna vote on the amendment only, changing the date from February 1st, 24 to February 1st, 27. All in favor? Opposed? None? Abstentions? None? Okay, we're on to the item itself.
With the amendment.
As
As an
amended.
end. So, as I said before, I'm in favor of,
So now you're making a new motion to.
So I make the motion that we remove the item
as
as amended, item number 2.
Second.
Moving second, discussion. Alder Hamilton.
Mr. Mordecai is a hard worker in our community, dedicated and willing to learn. And I'm in favor of him, being approved for the Civil Service Board.
Alder Guzman.
Other than, I echo my colleagues' comments.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? So carried.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to move item 3 to 6.
326.
Second.
Moved in second, that is David Valentino to historic. Levinsky, Harvey to homeless advisory. Unidra moving to homeless advisory, and Tanea Edwards to livable cities. Discussion. Alder Guzman.
I'll just be speaking on homeless advisory commission, but both of the appointees, both of the nominations, folks who spoke, were nominated, they've shown decades of experience working with homeless or homeless adjacent populations. And I definitely especially appreciated both of their comments related towards approaching homelessness, from the criminal justice standpoint, from social service standpoint, because that's a really important, and I think the most effective way to address homelessness and helping people who are homeless or who are affected by issues, by mental health issues, like social service issues, etc. So I'm in favor of those two appointments, as well as the other ones. But I just wanted to make my comments. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Mr. Mr. Levinski Hardy and Ms. Mole, very passionate about the homeless advisory commissions. And I'm in favor of both of them being approved for those commissions, as well as Mr. David Valentino. He seems very, very passionate, seeing the changes happening with our properties in the historic district and all districts here in the city of New Haven. And I'm in favor of his approval to the Historic District Commission. Well,
Number 6.
number 6, and also, yeah, Ms. Edwards, I'm also in favor of her for the Livable Cities Initiative Board. I'm sure she's gonna learn a lot, and she will do her best work. Thank you.
I agree. All of them are good. I was particularly impressed with the responses from Mr. Hardy and Ms. Millay. I mean, they were just really right on target. I hope when they get to work, they'll be working as hard as they worked in this room.
Thank you.
Any other comments? We're ready to vote. All in favor of these items from number 3 to number 6?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No abstentions? These are carried. For item number 7, which I think would take a loan because it needs an amendment as well. Yes, because it didn't note that his position would be for finance, not the Port Authority, so that has to be amended. Motion.
Thomas Cavalier needs to be amended, the Erica Holohan.
Yeah, Erica Holohan is number 7, right? Yeah.
Well,
So.
Thomas Cavalier.
There's 2 different.
Oh, they're 2 different lists?
Yeah, for working on the actual rights.
Oh, okay, not the agenda. All
Right.
right. All right, so
So
who are
we're
we
looking
addressing?
at Thomas Cavalier alone, which
Okay,
needs an
okay.
amendment.
Right, amend by order of substitution. So,
So we're looking for motion to amend. So we need a motion to amend the wording that the position is Port Authority Finance.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
second,
Moved and second. Discussion.
it is just a matter of amending the order to show that Mr. Cavalier will be concentrating on finance within the Port Authority Board and Commission. So,
They require that it's.
right, it is,
spelled out.
right, and so the order will reflect finance specifically.
Any other comments on the amendment itself? Seeing none, all in favor of amending this item, say aye. Aye. Opposed, none, abstentions, none. It is amended. Now we're on the item as amended, Mr. Cavalier, to the position of finance of the Port Authority.
Mr. Chair, I move the motion.
Second,
Moved and second, discussion.
Mr. Cavalier is, oops, I'm sorry. Thank you, Vice Chair. I'm speaking out of turn. I'm trying to move it along.
Yeah, you're
I'm
on
in-
a roll with it.
Yeah, I'm in favor of Mr. Cavalier being appointed. Yeah, I think he'll do his best work and he's a good fit. So I'm in favor.
Other discussion. I really thought he was ready. I mean, just the way he came up and was kind of so excited to put him to work today.
Definitely.
All right, seeing no more discussion, the item as amended is on the table. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed or none? So carried.
Mr. Chair, I ask that we move items 7, 9, 10, and 11.
Well, why don't you say the names so we don't.
Okay, I ask that we move item 7, Erica Holohan to the Peace Commission. Item 9, Nicholas Fabiani to the Port Authority Board and Commission. Item 10, Christine Kim to the New Haven Redevelopment Agency. And item 11, Matthew Nemerson to the New Haven Development Agency. And number 12, item Douglas Houseland to Transit District.
Second. Moved and second, discussion.
Thank you, Vice Chair. All these folks came before us, stated their case for the respective commissions and or board. I personally feel they're all qualified for the positions, and I'm in favor of recommending them to the respective board and commissions.
Further discussion, Alder.
I'd like to say that I believe that these are excellent appointments that have been asked to serve, that they all come with a lot of expertise and experience and knowledge of New Haven, and that they would be good candidates for those different commissions. The Peace Commission, which is really very important in the city. The Redevelopment Agency, which we so desperately need to make sure that we have individuals with expertise from the ones that we have that have come before us, considering the so many projects that are coming up in our city and as we're here today. And also in reference to Transit District, Mr. Houseland has a lot of experience in this area. So I think we're very fortunate to have these candidates before us. Thank you.
Further discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or none? So carried. Yes, we still have to go through, we still have to approve it tonight, 13 and 14. They're
Mr.
reappointments.
Chair, I ask that we move items 13 and 14, reappointments of Dennis Daniels to the Civil Service Board and Kathleen L. Fay to the Environmental Advisory Council.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. As I look at the paperwork, I see that attendance is really good so far on those committees. Ms. Fay is 86% and 93% for Dennis Daniels. And the leaders of those two commissions are really interested in keeping those folks on. And I don't have, well, I know Dennis Daniels is a former fire chief. And no good character there.
Good.
Yeah, we felt very familiar with it. That's it.
Great. All right, it's moved and discussed. Any further discussion?
No.
In case, all in favor of approving these reappointments?
Aye.
Opposed or none? So carried.
Second.
Everybody moved in second. There's no discussion on adjournment. This committee, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None?
Good night.
We are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, it took so long, but.
Yeah, it was very good. Just a little longer than I wanted it to be. Good night, everyone. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
We'll talk later about that.
No,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
That-